save lives.
Oh, yes.
And I'm gonna show a slide on the death rate in a few, but so after your death and you heard that sermon of
Take what breaks your
your
heart,
heart.
and do something about it. That propelled me, and I had not thought about. I was looking at information, trying to find out exactly what went on with Nikki and what could have possibly happened or what could have caused this. But I thought, what am I going to do about it? And I know she always talked about, Mommy, I want to have, with the ladies we pray with, I want to have a place where women, she always said infected and affected. So I thought about, and someone mentioned about a nonprofit. And I said, well, I don't know anything about a nonprofit. I give sometimes to different organizations but I never thought about, never in a million years had I thought about having a nonprofit. And I said, well, I'm going to do something about it. And God has been so good because so many people have poured into me. I've gotten so much information from these different organizations and other nonprofits. And I've had such a supportive family, church family, as well as my personal family, my husband. Her daughter, her oldest daughter, has now taken a certification course to be a case manager, even though she's in New York.
Great.
Her sister, my daughter, my other daughter, she has daycare. So as part of our nonprofit, she would like to help individuals or caregivers and guardians to get vouchers for kids who are in families where maybe the mother or maybe the grandmother is watching their kid, so that your child can go to an after-school program. That's something that I hold dear to my heart because I see the children who are here who seem to be so blessed when I'm doing the Investors Program, teaching, and I think about kids that don't have that. So maybe giving them an opportunity to be able to go to a camp or to come to a place like Impact with the Children's Center. So that kind of thing. And again, it's saying, I don't want to go on, but it's a comprehensive program that we need for kids where they can get, and families and individuals that are impacted by mental illness and substance use disorders.
So I just put on the screen a little more information about your nonprofit and what you have to offer. So if you want to talk a little bit about your services.
Okay. Sure. Now, what I put up on the list where you see counseling, daycare, healthcare, outpatient, because I'm just starting, and though I'm so thankful and blessed that I have been able to do some things on a smaller scale, but what I've been able to do, which is most important to me, is connect with nonprofits and institutions and even some of the ministries that we have here that I know have a passion and a desire to help. So I feel confident in saying if someone says they need counseling, of course, or daycare or health care. I've gone with it, and before I did the nonprofit, but since I've been here, there's some elderly people, even I'm elderly as well, but who I've been able to go to a doctor's appointment with and advocate or look at the insurance and say, well, you shouldn't have to pay this because that covers it, that kind of thing. And I think I have outpatient, inpatient. To me, inpatient is the last resort unless it is a Christian-based program. But not everybody. It's not a one-size-fit-all. Or outpatient. So I've been able to connect with nonprofits and other institutions and agencies that will help with sending someone for outpatient or inpatient. Transportation, that was something big for me. I was able recently to provide transportation for someone to go to Raleigh to a residential program because he really needed it after we talked and went over some things. But I find that getting people to their services, and not just if it's counseling or if it's to get their doctor's appointment or to go for a job interview, because sometimes people who are in recovery or going through things, they don't have a way to get there. They may not have transportation. Assistance with custodial issues. If they're grandparents or guardians who need to get custody of their grandchildren, temporary or permanent, being able to navigate them, because these are things that I went through as I raised my two granddaughters, or when Nikki was going through some of the things that she went through. I was able to do those. Getting legal assistance. I've even joined with, and I've tried to join with nonprofits and institutions and agencies that help in these areas. So I joined JCOIN, which helps with those who are having legal issues and problems, how the legal system deals with someone who's incarcerated or going to be released who may have had a mental issue or a substance use disorder. Tutoring. I've done that on a small scale, but helping a parent or a mom or a guardian or grandparent find tutoring if the child needs tutoring. And again, with vouchers, my daughter does vouchers. She has 2 daycare centers, and she said she'd be willing to do workshops. So even come here, she's in Maryland, but even she comes down often. She was just here last Saturday for our event. But to be able to help them to navigate through the system to get vouchers for their children, for after school or school daycare. And some of the family support services that families are provided with educational resources and outreach materials. And this is, like I said, my degrees are in education and administration and supervision, but I've learned so much through this journey and process.
Yes.
I've learned where to get knowledge. I've been on, and I know you're going to show some of those later, but I've joined like with NAMI and SAMHSA to get information and resources. But also I'd like to have special events to celebrate and acknowledge efforts and successes. Those, maybe have a special celebration. And these are things that I'm thinking of and trying to find ways and build capacity. So far, I've never gotten a grant or anything, so I do need to build capacity financially, but with what I have and what I can refer to and what I can look into. But having fundraising events and just having families and individuals be able to come together, celebrate when you've had a certain amount of recovery time, or celebrate when you've gotten your child or you've made some accomplishment, so that they know that they are worth it, that they're worthy, that they're loved, and that they do have a place in life, that they can thrive and do well. I get excited when I start. But again, like the transportation will be provided to ensure that if someone is in treatment, or even if it's a guardian who needs, I'm always thinking about, because as a grandmother, I raised my 2 grandchildren, and I needed to know how to get assistance with them, how to get vouchers, how to get them into special daycares, even I got both of them into boarding schools for a while. So just what I went through in my experiences, being able to help another grandmother, another person who's in recovery, to be able to navigate through those things. So those, and even let's talk. You can tell I'm a talker. But even being able to talk to someone and listen and say, listen, this is what I've been through. I hear you. So let's work at this. Let's do this together. We can do this. We can do this and not give up. So those are the kind of things that I hope to be able to do. And again, I'm doing small capacity now, but I'm looking forward. I believe God, He has been already, but He's going to open more doors, more opportunities, more platforms like you have here, that we can do this.
And, when we're going through, sometimes we feel like, where is God? But once we get through and get on the other side, we can see how God can use us and our testimony.
Oh, yes.
To help someone else.
It's only because of Him, believe me. It's only because of Him.
You have such a wealth of knowledge. And you've been through it. You've been through how to navigate raising grandkids of an addicted child. You know the ins and outs. So I just hope that people will, understand they do not have to go through this alone.
Absolutely.
They do not have to go through this alone. Yeah. There are people out there willing to help. So we want to continue this podcast with a few more statistics to just take a closer look at the problem. Ruth, you talked about your daughter, it's starting in adolescence. And statistics show that 1 in 6 youth aged 6 to 17 experience a mental health condition each year. So most mental health issues aren't something that start, when you get in your 30s or 40s. It's usually early. It says half of all lifetime mental health conditions begin by age 14. So we're talking young people. That's why it's so important that we understand that our kids are our future. Yes. And we need to be on it.
Definitely.
And 75% of the people that have mental illness, they have it by age 24. So this is not something that you develop when you're old. But a lot of times we don't want to
acknowledge
it, right, as
know.
an issue
Right.
until we're much older and it's out of control. So individuals with mental health conditions face an average 11-year delay between finding out that there is an issue going on and getting treatment. If you get treatment at all, remember we said only 7% actually get treatment. So when we look at some of those common barriers to treatment, a lot of it has to do with insurance. And we will have some people at the health fair to discuss health insurance and how you can get insurance for not only your physical health, but your mental health as well. And then there's also that discrimination. And, you know, we truly do need more African American therapists. You know, some of the issues when we go to a white therapist, we don't feel they can meet our needs because they don't always understand our culture.
Can relate, yeah.
You know, there are so many more avenues now, and there's so many more courses available. So it's being recognized in the community that we have to understand the culture of everyone before we can be able to really assist them in a way that will be meaningful or productive for them. And, you know, our last barrier that I had put up on the screen is the transportation. And that is definitely one of the things that your nonprofit is working towards, and that you have already been in assistance. You know, to take someone to a treatment facility in Raleigh is no small thing. I'm sure, you know, he will always remember that.
He does.
That you cared enough about him.
We went to visit him. He does. He's so appreciative and so grateful.
And we need that. So when you look at substance abuse and mental illness, you know, it's very common for them to go hand in hand. And I like, you know, it on the dual diagnosis I have up there that approximately 30% of alcohol abusers and 53% of drug abusers have a serious mental illness. And we'll look at the alcohol and we will look at the drugs, but we don't want to look at the mental illness. And over 50% have a mental illness. So it kind of, to me, it comes down to what came first, the chicken or the egg. It doesn't really matter. They go together. So we have to make sure that we look at both. And I just added, you know, a couple of other bullets up here that when you have substance use disorder, that is a mental illness within itself, because the drugs will change a person's brain.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we don't want to look at it that way. But when your brain is altered, then you're going to act differently.
Absolutely.
Because it's not working the way God had intended it to work. And pretty much I just listed that some of the disorders that we see, the mental disorders that are so closely related to the substance abuse that we just kind of overlook which is the anxiety, the depression, because a lot of the symptoms are masked, or a lot of the symptoms are the same. So we want to choose one over the other.
That's it.
So there are just some more statistics on some of the risk factors that we generally don't look into. But one thing that I do want to draw attention to is the genetics. Some mental illnesses run in families. So, if, grandma, we love to say, well, she just acting like her mama, or she just acting like her grandma. Well, that should
uncle.
let you know that
something might be there.
There was probably, issues back then. So, we can see over here that 7.7 million, can be affected just by using one or the other, So many people are affected. And I put this slide in because, we talked about your daughter, passing away from a drug overdose. And the underlying issues. And it has been such a trend with the number of deaths from overdoses, especially since COVID.
Yes.
It's up to like 93,000 a year. This last statistics was 91, close to 92, but now it's up to 93. And for some people with COVID and all the issues that came with COVID made their mental illness more prevalent. Therefore, there are lots of new data out about the increased use of drugs and alcohol since COVID. And we're seeing how in 2020, 20,000 more people. And the last data that I looked at, it said that 23,000 more people die of an overdose than the year before. So you can see that upward trend. That bottom row is female, and the upper row is male. So, we know with most deaths, men tend to have a higher rate of death, but women attempt more often. This is a lot.
It is.
This is really a lot. To have more than 23,000.
Yes.
Increase, an increase in 1 year of deaths due to overdoses.
Oh my God.
So I wanted us, before we close, to look at some of those warning signs. And you talked about some of the warning signs, and I put them up here so that people can see how closely related some of the warning signs are. And some of the warning signs are the same.
Yeah.
One of the key signs of drug abuse is that you continue to use drugs, although it is harmful.
Yes.
That it is harming your health. it affects your performance, whether you have a job or whether you're in school, despite knowing how it's affecting you, you keep
Still, yeah.
using. That is
A
the
sure
key
sign, yes.
that you know something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you said, your daughter would skip school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hers didn't show up necessarily in lower grade
Right.
performance because she was just naturally smart.
Right.
You know, but those in the working world, after you take drugs for so long, it is going to affect your work
Oh,
performance.
yes.
Because we talked about it affects your brain. It changes your brain. So it's going to affect your everyday life.
Exactly.
And everything that you do within your life. You know, you can't wait to get home to have that next high versus going out with people from work or going out with the family. You no
Right.
longer have money to do the things you used to do because it is used on drugs. So these are some key signs. You know, if you have a family member that is like, can I borrow money to pay the light bill? Or, you know,
Don't do it.
things just aren't adding up the way they should. Take a closer look at that.
Right.
So those are some classic warning signs of having a drug abuse problem. And when we look at the mental illness side, you will have some of those same
Exactly.
characteristics. But you will also have additional issues such as mood swings. The depression is worse. Some people that are abusers, they might have some slight depression, but it will change once they take those drugs.
Yes.
They turn
And that's
into
what
a
they do.
whole different person. But normally, if you're not addicted to drugs and you have a mental illness, you will see a change in their mood, the depression, the wanting to be isolated or alone, the feeling that no one cares about me, changes into not wanting to go out. And all of that comes from
Sure signs.
like the depression or the anxiety. And a lot of times with mental illness, they mask it with physical issues.
Right.
You know, headaches, backaches,
Stomach ache. Yeah.
just not feeling well. So if you notice any of these changes, and I tell people, especially with mental, the onset of a mental illness, you will definitely notice a change. It might go from a person that used to eat a lot to no longer
Not
eating. Or it might be a person that didn't used to eat. All of a sudden they overeat. So you will see how they just change. And sometimes it's a gradual change as the mental illness start to take over. They start to change. So these are just some warning signs that we should be aware of. You know, and anytime you see anything that's not of the ordinary, check it out.
Check it out.
So we wanted to provide, and Ruth has talked about being involved with several different organizations, and I am involved with several different organizations. So I put a chart up here just so that you can see that there are such a vast number of places where you can get some assistance. Now they even have crisis text lines, that's open 24/7 access. There are just so many resources out there. And I am so happy that starting this summer, it is going to be a new number, like we call 911.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
It's going to be a 3-digit number that we can call for mental health emergencies. So that will make it so much easier for the right people to come and assist us. Right now, it's called 911, and I encourage everyone to continue to call 911 because they will send someone. And sometimes we are in a situation and we feel like we can handle it, but you can't always handle a person that is high on a certain kind of drug or have a psychotic break. We have to realize that these people are not of themselves.
Right.
And sometimes they might try to harm us, but it's not them.
Right, exactly. That's amazing.
It's the disease that has them. And we have to recognize our weaknesses.
Right.
That I'm not a policeman. I'm not a doctor. So I need to call 911. And, these organizations, they're for all ages. You can call. I even have up there Partnership for Drug-Free Kids, the National Suicide Prevention, NAMI. All of these are great organizations. And all you have to do is pick up your phone. We want to show you a really short clip of a video that was done by NAMI, one of these organizations here, that talks about it being okay to be a Christian and to have a mental illness. So let's take a moment and watch this video.
Hi, I'm Yolanda Blackston, and I live in Maryland. I am the daughter of a pastor. My father-in-law was a pastor, and my husband is a pastor. So you can imagine my faith and spirituality is something that's extremely important to me. But one of the other things that I identify with is my mental illness. I live with major depression, generalized anxiety, and ADD. There was a time that I was fearful to disclose my mental illness because of my faith. Several people have the opinion that if I prayed hard enough, I would be cured of all of my sinful diseases. But that's not true. So I came across NAMI. NAMI is a wonderful organization. And what they taught me was that my mental illness is not a character flaw. It is just my makeup. I have brown eyes, brown hair, and I happen to live with several mental health disorders. So, with that, it helped me reframe my understanding of the church and mental illness. My belief states that my God is not offended by me seeking therapy. He's not offended by me taking medications as needed for my mental health conditions, just like he's not offended by me taking medication for high blood pressure, which I also have. So I don't feel like it's a slight, and I want to encourage people of faith to reach out. There is no shame in reaching out to a mental health counselor, a therapist, a psychiatrist, even going to your primary care doctor and sharing your concerns. Our faith teaches us that we should live an abundant life. So I believe in seeking treatment. It helps me to live an abundant life. And I'm very thankful for NAMI for helping me in my journey to wellness.
I think that is just a great way to end this podcast with us seeing that it doesn't matter who you are and that your faith does not have to be shaken because you have a mental health issue.
Exactly.
It's faith that will get you through.
Oh, yes.
And this is, just a prime example of this particular female and, what she went through and how she, was afraid in the beginning because of the stigma.
Right.
And unwilling to seek help. It's okay. I've heard to have theology and a therapist.
Oh, yes.
It is
a necessity.
It is perfectly okay. In fact, God ordained it. There are, people say, but nobody understands. God understands. He gave us examples in the Bible.
That's right. All throughout.
Of people that had some mental issues, that had some abuse issues. But he can bring us out of all of it. So we encourage all of you that if you have an issue, we presented you with lots of resources today. Pick up the phone. We are blessed that Word Tabernacle Church has a counseling division. You can call us. We can help you with resources. If you need to get in touch with me, you can reach me at tinger.purvis@wordtab.net. You can reach my husband at stanley.purvis@wordtab.net. Or you can just drop us an email at wtccounseling@wordtab.net. We are here to help you, and it takes all of us to make a difference. So we hope that throughout the month of May that you will continue to seek out people and resources that can help you or someone that you may know that may be struggling with drug addiction or a mental health issue or both. We know that they go hand in hand with each other. So we leave you with this quote from NAMI: taking on the challenges of mental health conditions, health coverage, and erasing the stigma around mental illness requires all of us to do our part. So we thank you for tuning in to Counseling Connections, and feel free to give us a call if you need us. Be blessed.
Let's just talk for a minute. Let's just share a mystery. Let's share a mystery. Together we can find the answer. Together we can find the truth. Somehow, let's get connected with